On the table. What's that? Yeah. Hello, Gitvach.
Gevurah.
Shavua Tov.
Gevurah.
Shavua Tov, everybody.
Gevurah, what's it?
How are you?
Good.
Good. Okay.
Shavua Tov, everybody.
Gevurah, Lenny.
Shavua Tov.
New Perek. Perek Asiri. Peites. Kol hatoder mechavero, koidim es chavero. When you have multiple korbanos to offer, which ones go first? So there's a concept of tadir, that which happens, for example, every day. So, for example, the Ola Satamid is offered every day. The Musaf is offered once a week, let's say the Musaf of Shabbos. So the daily Tamid is more tadir than the Musaf of Shabbos. So on Shabbos, the Ola would be offered before the Musaf. Kol hatoder mechavero, kodim es chavero. And the Gemara's first example, hatmidim kodim lemusafim. Right? The Ola Satamid would be offered. That means you shecht it, and you prepare, receive the blood, and do zrik and everything prior to the musaf. Musfei Shabbos koidmim lemusfei Rosh Chodesh. Next week is Rosh Chodesh Teves, falls on Shabbos. So you have the musaf of the Shabbos to be brought, and then you have the musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Shabbos comes every week. Rosh Chodesh comes every month. Shabbos is more tadir. So Musfei Shabbos koidmim lemusfei Rosh Chodesh. Musfei Rosh Chodesh koidmim lemusfei Rosh Hashanah. The musaf brought on Rosh Chodesh Echad B'Tishrei is offered before the musaf of Rosh Hashanah because the Rosh Chodesh comes every month. Rosh Hashanah comes once a year. Shneamar milvad olasa boker asher lo olasa tamid tasu es eila minola. So the Gemara wants to know where is the source of tadir. So the Gemara says minola and kidokam retamim milvad olasa boker. So you bring it to pasuk. So the Gemara says dilma tmidin hein de kadmul musaf mishum tadiri. Maybe the Olasat Tamid goes before the Musaf because it's Tadir. But Musafim and Musafim in Allah. But how do I know that the Musaf of Shabbos goes before the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh? Amr Bilad, Amr Kra Ka'ele, Ta'asula Yom Shivas Yamim. That just the Musaf that's brought the first day of Pesach is brought every day of Pesach. Eila Ka'ele. We need the halacha that the same musaf is brought every day. Why the ka'ela? To tell me both halachas. Because of eila tasulayom shivas yamim, havamina Eila l'shiva sayomi. Because it says you bring shiva kvasim. Maybe you, instead of bringing shiva kvasim every day, you would bring shiva kvasim over 7 days, which is one each day. So I need Eila to say that the shiva kvasim are about every day. Layom ksi. It already says that, layom, each day. V'akati ema Eila layom, aval shar yom elayodana kama. Maybe the first day, but the other days I would not know that. Amar kratasu, sheyukola siyo shavos. All the preparations of the musaf have to be exactly the same. So just like there's a special order that the tadir goes earlier, same thing every day. Abaya Amar migufa dikra. We learn it from the pasuk itself. Im kain leim rakam milvas olas abekar v'tishtak. Why do you have to say asher lolas tamid lamalil? Lemember dahachta dedira tigdam, to tell me this din that the korban that comes every day, as opposed to coming, every yontif, is considered tadir and should go first. Now, besides the principle of tadir, you have a principle of makudash, whatever is more sanctified. Kola makudash mechaveru kodem es chaveru. And we'll see what the gedorim are that make something more makudash. So, for example, you've shechted a chatas and an ola, and now you have the two dams waiting. Which one do you do the zrika first? Dam chatas koydem l'dam oila. You do the zrika of the dam of a chatas prior to the ola. Mipnei shehu meratzeh. Chatas provides atonement for averos that have kores. An ola is if you missed a mitzvah saseh, you bring an ola. But it's more stringent to have atonement from a chatas.
And those were not shechted together, so one is shechted before the other, so that's the order, no?
We've already learned. Well, we're gonna see that a chatas is considered more makudash. But
Okay.
let's say they had shechted an ola before the chatas, and you have 2 cups of blood. So this Mishnah is telling us doesn't make a difference that the ola was shechted first. You should do the zrika of the dam of the chatas first,
Okay. All right, thanks.
because the chatas is considered more mekudash. And I agree with you. Lechatchila, they should have shechted the chatas first. Now let's say you threw the blood, and you have the limbs of a chatas and the limbs of an ola lying around. The Mishnah says, Evrei oila koidmim le'emurei chatas. So the limbs of a chatas are eaten by the kohanim, but the emurim are thrown. So what should you put on mizbeach first? The limbs of the ola or the emurim of a chatas? The din is the limbs of the ola go first. Mibnei shehu kol la'ishim. Because the ola are completely burned. The limbs of a chatas are not completely burnt, they're eaten. Then, if you have 2 korbanos, a chatas and an asham, chatas koidemes la'asham, mibnei shadama nitin al daled kronis, vala yisod. The chatas blood is applied to the 4 corners of the mizbech, and the remainder is poured on the yisod. That doesn't exist by the asham. You just splash it on the 2 corners for an asham. So, applying it to the daled kronis makes it more mekudash. Ashram koidem l'soida ve'al nazir. An ashram is processed prior to a korban toda and prior to the ale nazir that is brought by a nazir when he completes his korbanos. He has to bring a chatas ola and a shlamim. The ayel is a shlamim. So the ashram is more mekudash. Mipnei shehu kodshe kodshim. Number one, an asham is considered kodshe kodshim, like a chatas and an ola. So it's more mekudash. Toda ve'el nazir kodmim l'shlamim. A korban toda, which is really a shlamim, but it's brought because either you were healed from a sickness, or you traveled across the desert or the ocean, or you were released from prison. And the difference, a regular shlamim, you ate the meat for 2 days. A toda, only 1 day. And you bring 40 loaves of bread with a toda. El nazir is also a shlamim, but you bring 20 loaves of bread. So toda ve'el nazir, kodmin l'shlamim. Mibnei, she'ei nechol liyom echad. Number one, a toda and el nazir is only eaten for 1 day. U tu'unin lechem, and you bring breads with it. Hashlamim kodmin lebechor. A shlamim is offered before bechor. Mipnei she'ein tu'unin matan dalot. Shlamim is you splash on the 2 corners, which eventually goes to the 4 walls, and a bechor only gets 1 splash. So shlamim is more mekudash. And usmicha, you need to lean on it. Unsachim, you pour wine libations. Utnufos chaz v'shok, you wave the breast and the thigh. You don't do any of those by the bechor. HaBechor, the firstborn is given to the Kohanim. And he shechts it like a korban shlamim. But it's a gift to the Kohanim. Only the Kohanim family eats it. So therefore, Bechor, Kohen LaMaiser. Maiser is the 10th animal, which anybody can eat. So the Bechor is Kohen LaMaiser. Number one, the Bechor is already Kedusha from the womb. V'necha LaKohanim, and is eaten only by Kohanim. HaMaiser Kohen LaOifois. Maiser is a cow or sheep. And a bird is a bird. So Meiser goes before Oifus. Mipneshu Zevach. It's considered, because you use Shchita. A bird you use Malika. V'yeshbo Kodesh Kadoshim Damo Ve'murav. Like a regular animal korban, you offer 2 things as Kodesh Kadoshim. It's blood and the Emurim. By a bird, you only offer its blood. Bird korbanos are offered before mincha. Birds have blood, and mincha doesn't have blood. Now, minchas chote kodem minchas nedava. Most menachos were donative menachos. You decided to bring a mincha as a gift. Now, there were a number of averos, like Tumas Migdash Ugdoshav, which were considered sliding scale averos, which means if you were wealthy, you brought an animal. If you were less wealthy, you brought a pair of birds. And if you were dali dalus, you brought a mincha. That's a minchas chote. The other kind of minchas chote is a mincha that was brought by a husband when he brought his wife as a sota. Those are 2 examples of minchas chote. So a minchas chote is kodem leminchas tedava. That has precedence over a donative mincha. Mibneshu bal chet. Just like we said, a chatas and an ola. The chatas has precedence because the chatas is maratza favera. Same thing, a minchas chote has precedence to a regular minchas tedava. Chatas ha'ov kodemes la'ola sa'ov. You offer the bird chatas before the ola because again it's for atonement. V'chein begdesha. When you are magdish a pair of birds, you should be magdish l'chatas first. Mananimili. How do you know that when it comes to zrika, the chatas, you do the zrika before the ola? But when you have the limbs, you do the limbs of an ola before the emurim of a chatas. Menanimili, the Ton Rabbanon. by the Chanukas Halavim that we read about the Korbanos of the Nisim, or when they Levim first did the avoda, it says Ufar Sheni ben Bakar Tikach lechatas, that the second par is brought as a chatas. Now one par is an ola, and one par is a chatas. In Balalamit Shem Shnayim. So are you going to come to say that the second par is different than the first par? Rik vanemar. It says already, Vasei et echad chatas v'sachad olah. So ma tamud lomer ufar sheni ben bakar tikach chatas. Why did I need this extra pasuk? Sheyachol shechatas kodemes l'chol ma'isa oila. I might think that every avoda of a chatas should have precedence over an ola. Tamud lomer ufar sheni ben bakar tikach chatas. Sometimes the chatas will follow the ola. Ipar sheni yachote oila kodemes l'chatas l'chol ma'isa. On the other hand, therefore, I would think maybe that since the par is called the sheni, maybe the ola goes first regarding everything. Talmud loymar va'asei es ha'echad chatas v'sachad ola, which the chatas goes before the ola. So how do you fulfill both of these? Haketzad. So dam chatas kodemes dam ola b'nei shemaratze. If you have the kos of a chatas and a kos of an ola in front of you, you do the zrika sadam of the chatas first because it has atonement, but the evrei oila, the limbs, if you have both and you don't know which should do first, the ola goes first. Why not? Because when we apply the blood of a chatas, you do it 4 times. But the first time you already have kapora. Maybe the first application of blood of the chatas goes first, but the other 3, since you don't need them, maybe the avodot of the ola should precede them. Ravina, this pasuk was dealing with the Chanukas Alavim in the Midbar. This chatas, the Levim really hadn't done any averis, so it's really very similar to the ola. But Kam Rachmana, he took them. In a sense, there was kapara. For example, the Levim took the place of the Bechor. The Bechorim were excluded because of the chatas, the Egel Azov. So there was some kapara. B'marava Amri, Hoil v'hischis b'matonos goymer. Since you started the first the first zrika of the chatas, you complete it before you go on. Iboilu. So we have a number of theoretical questions. Dam chatas ve'evri ola. So you've shechted a chatas, you've shechted an ola, and you have the dam of a chatas, and you have the limbs of the ola. Which should go first? Ezemen koydet. Do we say dam chatas koydet neshim maratze? Maybe the dam chatas goes first because it provides atonement. O dilma every ola koydet neshim koylet ishim, because it's completely burnt. Toshma dam chatas koydet l'dam oila. L'dam oila hu the koydet. The dam chatas goes before the blood, but le'evri oila loy koydet. But maybe the evri oila goes first. Was adarabba miseifa every oila koydet le'murei chatas. The limbs of the ola go before the emurim of the chatas. Le'murei chatas or the kodim, but l'dam chatas loy kodim. So maybe though it would not go before the dam chatas. So this is circular. Our Mishnah cannot prove it. Ella me'olek l'mishmina. And the Rambam paskins, the Kohen can choose which one he wants to do first. There's no specific order between the dam chatas and the evri oila, because the Gemara ended up without resolving it. Dam oila ve'emurei chatas. The blood of the ola and you have the emurim of the chatos, ezemen kodim. Do we say dam oil kodim because mikoach kolil? Maybe you apply the dam of the oil because the oil is completely burned. Oy dilme emurim chatos kodim because mikoach mechaper. The emurim of a chatos is mechaper and oil is not. Toshma, dam chatos kodim dam oil. Says the dam chatos goes before the dam, but dam chatos of the kodim dam oil, aval emurim chatos lo. But maybe the emurim, burning the emurim do not go before. Adra miseifa. Every oil kodim lemur chatas. The limbs of an oil go before the emurim. Every oil would kadmi lemur chatas. Aval dam oil lo. So again, elemehol lemishpnei. You can't prove from our Mishnah. Again, the Kohanim can do what they want. Iboiluhu. You've shechted an ola, you've shechted an asham, and you have the blood of both. So you have dam oil of a dam asham. Eiz mehen koidim. Do we say dam oil koidim because mikoach kolim? An ashram, the meat is eaten. An ola is completely burnt. So maybe an ola has precedence because it's completely burnt. Oy dilma dam asham koidim de mechaper. Asham at least is mechaper for averis, and ola is not. So toshma, dam chatas koidim dam oila. The dam chatas goes before no lav. Dam asham does not go. Dam asham lo. So the Gemara says no. Really, bedinu di boile misne dam asham. The Mishnah could have also learned the dam asham, not the dam chatas. The only reason it learned the chatas is because I did the boile misne seifra. It wanted to give me the din that the Avrei Oila is koidim l'murei chatas. It mentioned the chatas in the beginning as well. Because the Itana l'murei asham, if it would have said Avrei Oila koidim l'murei asham, have the meaning l'murei asham would have cut me. That yes, it has the dam oila has precedence over a murei asham, but l'murei chatas lo cut me. But over a chatas it would not have precedence. Because a chatas is more mekudash than an asham. So mishumach tana chatas, but technically, the learning could have been done with the dam asham as well. Toshma, chatas kodim la asham. You offer a chatas before an asham. Chatas u'de kodim la asham, aval oila lo, not an oila. My love dam. We're not talking about shechting it. We're talking about doing the zrik of the blood. So it looks like doing zrik of an ola does not go before the asham. The Gemara says, no, we're not talking about the dam. I am muri. They kanami diktani mipnei shadaman nitain. Because we talked about the blood being applied to the four kronos. Shema mina, that the Mishnah is talking about burning the limbs and not the zrika sadam. So again, we never resolved any of the questions. And therefore, the Kohanim can choose what they want to do. Chatas koidemes. We said that the chatas goes before an asham, because the chatas is applied to the four kronos. Asham is only to the two sides. Adarabba oda asham kodim sheken yeshlo kitzva. Perhaps an asham is more mikudash. It has a minimum value. Chatas doesn't. Filochi ribui. The Mizbech Adiv. Applying it to more locations on the Mizbech is more of a criteria. Then the Mishnah said, Asham Kodim L'Toida. Adrav, Toida Ve'el Nazir Kad Mishkein Tunin Lechem. Maybe a Toida Ve'el Nazir is more Mekudash than an Asham because an Asham doesn't have Lechem. Filochi Kotri Kotri Madifi. Since an Asham is in the category of Kotri Kotri, and that takes precedence. Then Toida Ve'el Nazir have a precedence over a regular Shlomim. Because the Toida Ve'el Nazir has bread. Adrab Shlomim Kod Mishken Yeshlam B'tzibur Kivyochid. A Korban Toda and an El Nazir can only be brought by a Yochid, not by the Tzibur. But the Shalmei Lechem, the Shalmei Tot, the Shtei Alechem of Shvuas is a public shlomim. So there are shlamims that are both yachid and sibur. Maybe that makes it more mekudash. The fact that a toda and an el nazir is eaten for only one day, as opposed to a shlamim which is eaten for 2 days, makes the el nazir and the toda more mekudash. Iboilu. We ask the theoretical question: Toda el nazir, which goes first, Toda or the el nazir? Ezemen koidim. Do we say Toda koidim shkein tuna dal minei lechem? The Toda gets 4 different kinds of bread. The el nazir only gets 2 kinds of bread. Oidilma el nazir koidim shkein yesh imo damim acherim. The el nazir, you have other korbanos. You have a chatas and an ola that go along with the nazir's asham. That goes along with the nazir shlamim of the ayil. A regular shlamim only gets a toad only has bread, doesn't have blood. So toshma zu kodemes lezu. The toda goes before the ale nazir. Shizu tu una damine lechem. Vizu einatun al shnei lechem. So you see, the amount of breads is what determines which one is more mekudash. Hashlamim koidmin lebechor. We said the shlamim goes before bechor. Adarabba bechor koidim shkein kedushos merechem v'nechel hakohanim. Maybe a bechor goes before shlamim because it can only be eaten by kohanim and it's kedushas mirechem. Afilu mitzvahs yiseres adifi. The fact that you have to do smicha, that you have to wave the chazav v'shok, you have to bring. There's more mitzvahs, so that makes it more mekudash. And habechor koidim lameiser. We said the bechor goes before the meiser. Adrab meiser koidim shekin mekadesh lefanav v'lachrab. When the farmer counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if he makes a mistake and he counts the 9th 10, or he counts the 11th 10, the 9th and the 11th can also become sanctified. So that stringency of a meiser maybe makes it more mekudash than a bechor. The fact that it's kadosh even from the womb is a more mekudash factor. Meiser korim la'oifos. We said meiser goes before the birds. Adarabba, oifos kal mishkein kodshe kodshim. Chatas ha'oif and oilas ha'oif are in the category of kodshe kodshim. Meiser is not. Filochi min zevach odiv. The fact that a meiser is an animal korban makes it more mekudash. Omer Ravina bar Shila. A murei kodshe kalim. You have like a shlamim. After you shech the shlamim and you do zrika sadam, you put the emurim on the mizbech. So you have the emurim, shiyotzu, they were taken out of the azora, lifnei zrikas damim, before you did the zrika sadam. Psulin, they become pasul. V'tanatuna, mibnei zevach. We said the meiser is more mekudash than a bird offering, because a bird you only have zrika sadam. By an animal, you have the emurim and the dam. Bishma emurim less nuboifos. I understand. There's no emurim by birds. Eladamia issa, but you do have blood by chatas ha'of. Elalav kamash b'lan, emurin kidamo. We're being taught that the emurim is like the blood. Ma dama lifnei zrika. Dam is there even before zrika. At the emurim kodim zrika. So the emurim we're talking about before you did the zrika. Yet the kokoilu kotri kotshim. Yet they were called kotri kotshim. And therefore, ma damo misl biyotze. Dam, if you take it outside the azor, it becomes pasul. Af Emurim Mifsal B'Yotzei. So too, if you remove the Emurim prior to the Zrikas Adam, it becomes possible. Name a Messiah. Let us say that the following supports this din of Ravina. Psar Koche Kolim Sheyotzel Fnei Zrikas Dami. Meat, not Emurim, but meat, let's say of a shlami that was taken out before Zrikas Dami. Rav Yochanan Amar kosher. You can eat it. Rish Lakish Amar apostle. Rav Yochanan Amar kosher. Hol v'soifel lot says. Eventually, you can eat the meat of a shlomim anywhere in Yerushalayim. So it's destined to be taken out. So therefore, it's kosher even you took it out before the Zrika. Rish Lakish Amar apostle because Adayin lo gives man a lot says. Yeah, once you do Zrika, you can take it out, but until the Zrika, you can't. So where's the proof? Ad kan lo pligel b'basar. Reish Lakish and Rav Yochanan are arguing regarding the basar. Aval be'emurim lo. But they're not arguing regarding the emurim, the Kodesh calling. That they both would agree that if you take them out of the azar, they become puzzle before the zrika. There's no concept of, oh, they are destined to leave the azara. So Gemara rejects this. Hu adin de be'emurim nami pligi. Really, just the way Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish are arguing about the meat, you could say they're arguing about the emurim as well. Ha de kamiflagi b'basar. The fact that the Gemara revealed their machlokas by the basar is to show you how far Reish Lakish goes. Lodicha kochad Reish Lakish tafilu basar. The Sofalot says that even though Reish Lakish knows that the meat is eventually going to be taken out of the Azar Kabidin in Yerushalayim, he still has the principle Adayin lo igiyaz manu lot says. Since now is not the time to take it out, remains possible. Lema ketanoi. Let us say that this halacha of Ravina bar of Shila is a machlokes tanoi, and we'll stop here.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 7:00.
Okay.
And tonight, Novi in about a half hour, 8:00.
Very good. See you later.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the first night of Hanukkah. Maybe we can make it later. We run away. Mario.
Yeah, ask him when in the next year